Hello and welcome to the Total Wealth Academy podcast. This is our first episode of the video podcast. We've been on the air, the radio, for like 27, 29 years, and we podcast our radio show. I think we've got something like 800 episodes, but this is our first video podcast. And what I want to do today is just give you an overview of what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast, how it will serve you. And then I'm going to go over a brief story of how I got into real estate investing and some of the things that I've done so that you can understand really where I'm coming from when it comes to building wealth and becoming financially independent, which is the true goal. So when it comes to this podcast, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring you guest after guest after guest. I'm going to bring you professional real estate investors, successful real estate investors in every area of investment real estate. This is single family, commercial, and by commercial, I mean just about everything. Apartments, self-storage, senior living, strip shopping centers, even city centers. We're investing in all of those. And we're investing both actively and passively. By actively, that generally refers to single family, where we buy them, we manage them ourselves, and we build a second stream of income that way. When it comes to the big commercial deals, those are almost always passive deals. That's where the members of Total Wealth Academy join together, pool their money, and go buy a big apartment complex or a self-storage complex or senior living. We have one person who's in charge of the deal. That is known as the sponsor or syndicator, if you're familiar with that term. The sponsor is the person who does all the work. They're the ones who locate the big apartment complex, they negotiate it, they evaluate it, they underwrite it, they sign on the mortgage. Then the rest of the members of Total Wealth Academy, what they do is they take their IRAs, their 401ks, or their cash, and they invest in that apartment complex. And they're completely passive, also known as an LP, limited partner. So you've got the general partner, who is the sponsor or syndicator. They do all the work. The passive investors, like myself, we just put up some of our money and we get a check every month or every quarter. And then when we refinance, we get big checks. When we sell, we get big checks, and we do nothing. So we'll be talking to sponsors from around the country, some of the top sponsors in the country, and we even have one of the highest rates of return ever among a sponsor. Literally, out of 17 full cycle deals, they've got a 50% rate of return. It's actually higher than that. 50+% rate of return for their investors. And you'll be meeting them on this show as well. The basic goal of the show is to improve our financial IQ, Why? Because high school and college do nothing to teach us how to build wealth. They teach us how to get a job, and that's about it. And they train us that the only way to make money is to trade time for money. So we're here to learn the other ways to make money. As Warren Buffett said, billionaire Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in the world, he made this point: you've got to learn how to make money in your sleep or you'll work till the day you die. And that's what we're doing at Total Wealth Academy. We're building these second streams of income where we make money even when we're sleeping. That's the power of passive investing or even active single family investing. And again, I'm going to have experts from each of those fields, passive and active investing, so that you can meet them, see their strategy, see which strategy works best for you so that you can get out there and start building some wealth for yourself and your family and that all-important second stream of income. Now, what I'd like to do now is just give you a brief overview of my experience and what I've done so far. If you go back, good Lord, 30 plus years, I was a health club instructor. And I became the manager of the club. I, went to work like I was told. working 70 hours a week. I thought I'd outwork everybody. I'll explain that in a minute. I placed first place in a national sales contest. They sent me to Hawaii for a week. And when I got back from Hawaii, they cut my pay by 20 grand a year. And what it did was it woke me up to the mistake and the risks involved in having a job. See, there's all this talk out there, the safe, secure job, the guaranteed paycheck, all BS, all BS. There's no such thing as a safe and secure job. There's no such thing as a guaranteed paycheck. You're at risk when you have a job because you don't control anything. You're at the whim of the corporation. But what that did when I got that pay cut is it woke me up to that fact that, if you've got a job and that's your only source of income, you're in the highest risk position in the United States, highest risk. And I decided right then and there that I must never have a job again. See, that's the meaning that I put to that event. Most people, if they get a pay cut, you know what they say? Oh man, I got to find a better job. I got to find a better company. No, it's the same everywhere. You're not going to find a better job, a better company that's not going to do the exact same thing to you, because that's the mission of any corporation. Remember, it is the corporation's responsibility to fire you as soon as they can find somebody to do your job cheaper, and that's just as good. So that's what you're working with when you've got a job. Another quick point is, what do people with jobs all have in common? They're all on the way out. If you've got a job, you're on the way out sooner or later, either because you don't want to work anymore, or usually because you can't work anymore because you get old and unhealthy. So again, that woke me up, and I started buying every set of books and CDs you can imagine off late night TV. I couldn't sleep at night because after the pay cut, I was negative cash flow at my job. And I began to realize that I was in dire circumstances and I needed to do something different. So I couldn't sleep at night. I was up late watching late night TV, and I saw these infomercials come on real estate investing. Everybody from Carlton Sheets to Tommy Vu, Dave Delgado, the Milams, Robert Allen. And I bought about $30,000 worth of those programs. And I did it on a credit card because that's all I had left. I didn't have any cash, which sounds crazy, but it was the best thing I could have done, best possible thing that I could have done. Because within 2 months of getting those books and tapes and doing that boot camp, within 2 months, I was able to quit my job because I was making more money as a wholesaler than I was at my job. I was only making about $5,000 a month at my job. I was making $5,000 to $10,000 a month as a wholesaler. Now, if you're not familiar with the term wholesaler, all I was doing was finding deals. I didn't have any money or credit, so I couldn't do the deals, but I would find those deals. I would find good deals, get them under contract, and then sell my rights to the contract to someone with money and credit. And they would pay me a finder's fee, anywhere from 5 to 10, as high as 40 grand on exceptional deals for finding the deal, a finder's fee. And I did that for about a year. Then, after I had all my bills paid and fixed my credit, I began flipping. Flipping is just simply buying, fixing, selling, buying, fixing, selling, buying, fixing, selling. Now, why do I say it that way? The reason is I want you to understand that wholesaling and flipping are not investing. They're not. They are speculation. They are earned income. It's a job. Whether you're a wholesaler or a flipper, you just got another job. You're just self-employed. And the profit from wholesaling and flipping is taxed that way as well. It's taxed as earned income. So you got to pay both sides of the Social Security and Medicare. You've got to pay the income taxes. So it takes a big chunk out of your profit compared to being an investor. So I flipped for about 2 years. So we're into my third year. And at the end of my third year, I started actually buying rental houses. And I bought them because I finally found a mentor that could teach me how to manage them, because I did not want to manage rental property the wrong way and end up working 70 hours a week again. I should bring this up. I almost lost my wife when I was working 70 hours a week. Nobody likes this joke, but if you're working 70 hours a week, who's romancing your wife? It ain't you. It ain't you. So I almost lost my wife when I was working 70 hours a week, and I was very fearful of taking on rental real estate because I was afraid I'd start working 70 hours a week again. Well, I met this guy who had 123 houses and vacationed 2 weeks a month out of the country. 123 houses, vacationed 2 weeks a month out of the country. That guy knew how to run rental real estate, and he taught me how to do it. I was able to do about the same thing. I got up to about 100 units, and those 100 units took me about 20 hours a month to run. Let me make this clear. Not 20 hours a week, but 20 hours a month to run. Then about a few years later, I'm not sure how long, it might have even been 5 years later, after doing single family for a long time, I started doing small apartments, little 10 units, 20 units, 23 units, 40 units, things like that. And did very well with those, made a lot more money than I did with single family. And it was a little bit easier I better be careful how I say that. It was more work, but easier to deal with tenants when they're all in one spot, if that makes sense. So commercial real estate, multifamily, apartment complexes, a little bit easier to run because everybody's all in one spot. At the end of that 5 years, I started doing big apartment complexes. We're talking, a couple hundred units, 500 units, things like that. But then I learned about a thing called passive investing. Passive investing, I mentioned that earlier. Passive investing is where you don't buy the property, you don't own the property, you're not dealing with the tenants, toilets, and taxes. You just put your money up. Well, what happened was this kid comes into my office and says, "Give me your money, I'm going to go buy an apartment complex." I threw him out of the office. I didn't even know who he was. But he came back 5 or 6, maybe even 7 times and asked me the same question. "Will you give me your money so I can go buy an apartment complex?" And again, I didn't even know what passive investing was at this point. So the 6th or 7th time he came in with the construction guy, with his property manager. He had almost his entire team with him. And he had a 3-ring binder that was about 3 inches thick that had the most beautiful, elegant, I don't know how to put it, the most beautiful business model I've ever seen. Every detail of the deal was in that 3-ring binder. Who was doing the rehab? Who was managing the property? Who the mortgage company was? What the plan for exit was? What the plan for rehab was? Every detail of that deal was in that binder. And after meeting his construction guy, meeting his property manager, and getting to know him a little bit better from having been in my office for six or 7 times, I made a calculated risk, and I gave him a large chunk of money. What was a large chunk of money to me at that time? 9 months later, he got me an 85% rate of return. 85% rate of return. I became a full-time passive investor at that point immediately, because it dawned on me that I didn't really like managing real estate. I didn't like owning it, dealing with the tenants, the toilets, the taxes, things like that. I love to teach, and I was spending a tremendous amount of time teaching real estate investing, and that was where the fun was. I was having fun doing that. I really didn't have that much fun running rental real estate. So what I did was I sold all my rental real estate, single family apartment complexes, sold them all, and went full time into passive investing, and eventually got up to 4,000 apartment units. And that is the path that I took. And it took me 15 years. In other words, people are always asking me, how long did it take for me to achieve the goals that I set? It took me 15 years. But that was because I didn't learn about passive investing until about the 10th year, something like that. And what I could have done is I could have saved really 10 or 13 years. I could have cut 10 or 13 years off that process if I'd had a little money and could have been able to go straight into passive investing. If you've got a little bit of money, $45,000 or more, could be in an IRA, 401k, cash, stocks, whatever. If you got $45,000 or more, you should really skip single family, skip small apartments, and go straight to passive investing. So once I achieved those goals, I really went on to just doing teaching. I created Total Wealth Academy, founded Total Wealth Academy, and I teach here, and I work 30, 40 hours a week here, but I love it. It's my passion. It's what I love to do with my time. Then my real estate is all passive. So all of my investment money is in real estate, but all my time goes to teaching, and I hope that makes sense. That's how I have two streams of income. And that's really the minimum you've got to have, two streams of income. And if you go back to when I got the pay cut, I want to share with you something that I learned that allowed me to do everything that I did. It is without a doubt the most important lesson that I ever learned as a human being, as a real estate investor, as a teacher. It just blew me away when I learned this, what I'm about to share with you. And what it has to do with is the map that we're all given to success. We all start somewhere. We'll call that home. And we want to get to peace, joy, love, wealth, health, and happiness. We'll call that success. And home and success are really far apart, really far apart. And what happens is, from the time we're old enough to walk, people start giving us a map to success. And the first people that give us a map to success are our parents. Our parents love us, they care about us, they respect us, they want us to do well. But what they do is they tell us this. They say to work real hard in high school and get yourself into college. Do your best to go to college. Go to college. Do your best to get a degree. Get out of college. Get a high-paying job with good benefits. Work for 45 years. Scrimp and save in an IRA or 401k. Retire at 65 and live off your savings. That map sound familiar to you? Of course, it's the map we're all given. Well, what happens after that is you end up in high school. In other words, your parents give you that map. Then you get to high school. Guess what your high school teachers tell you? The exact same thing. Work real hard in high school. Work for 45 years. Retire at 65. Live off your savings. When you get to college, what do your college professors tell you? The exact same thing. Work real hard. Get a high-paying job with good benefits. Work for 45 years. Retire. Live off your savings. When we get out of college, what do your bosses, friends, and neighbors tell you? The exact same thing. Well, one of two things will wake you up to realize that that map doesn't work. If you're lucky, like I was, you'll have a financial catastrophe at a young age. They'll come in, they'll fire you, they'll cut your pay, and that will wake you up and make you rethink your map. Other people are not as lucky. They wait till midlife. They wake up on that 35th 35th birthday, and they say 2 times 35 is 70, and they go, man, I'm halfway there, and I'm nowhere near success. The problem is what most people do at these junctures, whether it's a financial catastrophe or middle age, is they say this, it's my fault. And what people will do is they will say, I'm not working hard enough. So they'll take a second job, or they'll do like I did, and they'll work 70 hours a week, thinking they can outwork everybody. And that's how you'll become successful, is working longer hours, second jobs. That's how you'll be successful. Other people blame themselves and say, I'm not smart enough. So they literally go back and get another degree or a master's degree or a PhD. The first degree didn't make them rich, but the second or third one will. You know, that type of concept. The third thing that people do is they will blame themselves and say, you know, it's my attitude. It's my motivation. That's the problem. And so what they do is they take attitude and motivational courses. They go see Tony Robbins. They go see Zig Ziglar. They go get those. They work on their attitude and their motivation. But here's the problem. All those things can possibly do. Working harder, getting another degree, working on your motivation, all those things can possibly do is get you to the wrong place faster, because the problem is not with you. The problem is with the map. Guess where the people that taught you how to get to success have never been? Success. Think about it. Were your parents multimillionaires? No. I know your high school teachers were multimillionaires, right? No. I know your college professors, they were all multimillionaires, right? No. See, is it not possible that they gave you the wrong map to success? It's not possible. It's probable. Why? They've never done it. They've never done it. Your parents weren't financially successful. Your high school teachers weren't. Your college professors weren't. They couldn't give you the right map because they've never done it. But then some of you got desperate. You got desperate. You said, man, I'm not in the financial position I want to be in. I'm not moving towards success. I know what I'll do. I will hire a financial planner. A financial planner. See, we have been taught that titles mean something. Titles mean something. I've got to tell you, titles mean nothing. Nothing. I've got clients with 2 degrees, master's degrees, PhDs on their business cards. They're flat broke. Titles mean nothing. It is deeds and deeds alone that you must look for. Deeds and deeds alone. So if you've got a financial planner, most of you have a financial planner because you didn't do the math. You didn't Google, hey, how much money does the average financial planner in the United States make? And what you would have found is that they make about $80,000 a year. $80,000 a year. So if you've got a financial planner on your team, you've got a financial planner, here's what you did. You did exactly what I'm about to show you. You went to that financial planner and said, hey, I know you don't make a lot of money. I know you're not rich. I know you're not retired, but can you teach me how to get rich and retire? They can't help you. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't help you. They've never done it. You've got to have a millionaire on your team if you're going to learn how to become a millionaire. It's really that simple. And the wonderful thing about this particular point is it works for every aspect of your life. If you start looking at your interpersonal relationships, your fitness, you look at your activity in the community, charity, things like that, you can go back and question where you got your beliefs. And what you're going to find is you got those beliefs from unqualified people. In other words, those of you with trouble with interpersonal relationships, did you learn how to deal with women from a guy who's been divorced 4 times? Probably not a good thing to do. But if you take this tool, this method of questioning where your past beliefs come from, you'll start to find that they all come from unqualified sources. So, does it make sense when I say that if you're not in the financial position that you want to be in, it's not your fault? It's not. You were given the wrong map. However, can you unwatch what you just watched? Can you unhear what you just heard? You can't. You now know you're on the wrong map. You now know that you have to change. But if you don't change what you're doing, guess whose fault it is now? It's yours. See, you know you're on the wrong map. If you don't change, the blame moves over to you. Before, it wasn't your fault. You just had the wrong map. Now you know you've got the wrong map. It's now your fault if you don't change. See, you've got to understand that the rich teach their kids differently than the poor and middle class. While the poor and middle class are telling you to work for 45 years, retire and live off your savings, the rich are not telling their children that. They do not. In fact, when my son was 8, I handed him a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, probably the most foundational book on building wealth ever written, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. And I gave him a Lego, and I said, son, happy birthday, but I need you to read this book and understand that you need a job and a second stream of income. A second stream of income. All right, son, go play with your Lego, read the book, have fun, happy birthday. When he turned 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I reminded him, son, don't forget you need a second stream of income. When he turned 16, 17, 18, I congratulated him. Yay, you're going to college. Excellent, well done. But don't forget, you need a second stream of income. By the time my son graduated college, he had 11 rent houses and $4,000 a month in second stream of income. Now, some of you are going to say, ooh, he must be so brilliant. He must be so hardworking. He is brilliant. He is hardworking. So are you. So are you. The difference is not the hard work. It's not the brilliance. It's that he had the right map. He knew the right things to do. You've got to learn that map as well. And that's what this show is all about. Teaching you the map to success that actually works. So that's all I've got for you for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I shared some ideas with you that are both encouraging and enlightening. But be aware, you've got to take action. You now know you're on the wrong map. Do everything you can to change that. Read, go to seminars, go to workshops, get the information in your head, and then execute on it. All right, thanks for listening to the Total Wealth Academy podcast. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Take care.